And so, it begins. Dark were the skies, and chill was the wind, as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did crowd for a savior, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shimmering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strewn across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Plz. It begins now. Indeed, folks, welcome to Blue Plz, special edition right here on CynicalBrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. The date today is the 6th of July, 2010. It is 2 days before the anniversary of my birthing. Yes, indeed, looking forward to that. I intend to drink a lot and go see Predators. That's my plan. And then all the lads coming over for the weekend and we're going to play games. It's going to be fantastic. Looking forward to it. Welcome to everybody, including all the new guys. I hear you've never listened to the show before. Now would be a perfect time to start. If you are not already in the live channel, then we have a chat room going on. You click the chat button at the bottom of the screen on CynicalBrit.com. You'll get in there. You will see things perhaps that you would never wish to see. However, you will be part of some kind of social group and you will feel accepted, wanted, and all that stuff. Oh, yes, indeed. What have I got coming up for you in the show today? Well, it is a special show, so I thought I'd come up with some special stuff, but we're going to be talking about what Blizzard just announced about 30 or so minutes ago, give or take. Real ID for the forums. And I think my opinion on this is going to be extremely controversial. There's no way I'm going to please everyone, and you know, I never ever try. So we're going to be doing that a little bit later on the show. It's going to be fun. Also, I want to talk about some of the comments that have been made on my YouTube page, and specifically one thing, actually, that really got me fired up, and that's the fact that some people complain that, the instances might be too hard, and you're an elitist for thinking that you should go with a guild group. Yeah, cry, cry, cry. Gonna be fun to take that apart a little bit later on in the show. Oh, yes, indeed. Looking forward to that one. Also going to be doing Q&A, folks. Yes, indeed, question and answer session. At the end of the show, I'll be logging into the Cataclysm beta, assuming it's back up again, and I'll answer all of the questions that you can possibly throw at me and that I can think of. However, I would not recommend in any way, shape, or form that you discuss the lore. Because, as you're well aware, the new centre of the lore is in Tinkertown, which is now located somewhere inside the Exodar. I've yet to find it, but I'm sure I will manage to get it in a future video. Yes, indeed. It's been a rather eventful few days, hasn't it, considering? I don't know what happened. Well, I do know what happened. People want to see Cataclysm, so I thought I'll show them Cataclysm. And I'll try and apply some quality control. Not to brag or anything, but really, if you're going to put out a video, please, for the benefit of those watching, could you put it out at more than 5 frames a second, in the correct aspect ratio, and not try and sound like a nasal jerk? Preferably when you're recording your commentary, do so on a microphone that cost more than the burger I ate today. Thank you very much. That is all that's required for quality, and I look forward to people putting out good footage so that everyone can watch some really great stuff about Cataclysm. And then I'll have to step my game up. In the meantime, I'm glad, really honoured, honestly, that you guys have come out in such numbers to not only listen to the show today, but obviously watch the videos that I'm putting out. And a special thank you has to go to the man himself, the one and only BB from MMO Champion, for picking my videos as the examples that he wanted to show. So thank you very much, and the check is in the mail. Yeah, it's going to be good. Right, what else have I got for you? So, it wouldn't be a Blue Plz if I didn't bring the features out. It's been a long time, really, since I played the features. I started doing the features again last week, and there were a few features back from the mists of time in Blue Plz when it started back in 2005 that I put out and people seem to really like, but they go on and off depending on whether I've got writer's block or whether I just have the time to write them. So, there's a feature called Nubcake News, and it's a satirical news program that I put out, and I think you're going to like this one an awful lot. I put this together just before the show. It's current events, it's hot topic, fresh off the presses, and I will play that for you a little bit later on. Also, we've got a character on the show that has endured through various radio plays and Q&A segments. He's called the Murloc, and he is an angry British bastard. He is very unpleasant. I'm going to present to you, considering we have so many new listeners, they might not really get the way the Murloc's put out, so I'm going to start a series of radio sketches telling you the life and times of the Murloc, and it's going to be presented kind of in the form of an audio book. So I'll put the first one of those together today, and I'm looking forward to playing that for you a little bit later on in the show. Should be a lot of fun, I hope. And of course, fantastic music for the live listeners gets played throughout the show, and that's pretty much it. That's what happens in this show, so hopefully you guys are looking forward to that. Fantastic stuff. Right, is everything running correctly? It certainly seems to. Nothing's broken to my knowledge. Excellent. Fantastic stuff. Thanks to the moderators in the channel today. You'll be able to get rid of any idiots if you so desire. People are claiming I have echo. I'm pretty sure that's not me. As far as I'm aware, at any rate. Yes, indeed. Should be okay. Just need to check that our tiny chat is all right. Microphone should be turned off. Yes, indeed. Yep, as far as I'm aware, everything's fine. Whatever. Okay. Let's get on with the show, shall we? I think the best thing to do would be to kick it off with some emails.
Mail time! Mail time!
That sounds like it's mail time. Here's the mail.
It never fails.
It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes,
I want to wail.
Yes, indeed, folks, it is mail time. It is the time that we read the mail. So I'm going to kick it off. If you want to email into the show, you can do so throughout the week. If you're listening to the podcast, which is where the vast majority of people seem to listen, then you can send it in. Just send it to themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com. That's the place to go. That's the place to send it. Whatever you want to say, send it over. I'll read the best ones live on the show. Right, okay, let's kick it off, shall we? Start things off with an email that I've got here. This came in fairly recently, and this one is from Smurg. Hey TB, you magnificent troll bastard. Long time listener here, liking the Cataclysm videos. Anyhow, I remember when leveling to 80 when Wrath first came out, I was leveling up in the first half of Zuldrak and doing the Scourge Troll questline. I remember that at the end of the chain, it pitted you against the Troll Death Knight in a semi-vehicle based quest. Basically, you controlled a Berserker, and he tanked the boss, and DPS healed you with enough decent control mechanics. What was particularly interesting about this quest was it was fairly difficult, comparatively speaking. The Zerker you were controlling would die a couple of times in the fight, you had to manage a few different abilities, the DK hit like a truck, and he spent the whole time chucking evil crystals at you. These crystals will leave a spot on the ground that did some nasty dots, and didn't go away, so it would quickly fill up a chunk of the small platform you were on, i.e. don't stand in the fire. Also, they would predict your movement, so you had to move around fairly erratically. The guy was basically a little raid boss, one of my favourite quests in the game. In hindsight, it does prepare you for more serious bosses quite well, as you can't just face roll it. Does it look like Cataclysm is going to be putting out any more of these solo bosses? They're challenging, fun, inventive, and I would like to see more of them in the game, even if it's just one per zone. And if so, what kind of things are they doing, and what kind of mechanics would you like to see implemented? That is from Smurg, Enhancement Shaman. Okay. Well, I haven't seen any as of yet, but I'll be honest, I would be highly surprised, really surprised, if they didn't do something like that. I mean, we've seen starting areas of the starting zone. We're talking like 1 to 5, 1 to 6-ish, and we've seen they've got vehicle quests and stuff like that, and I would be so very surprised if they didn't have any kind of possession quest, as I call it. It's not really the same as a vehicle quest because you're not mounting some kind of inanimate vehicle and driving it around, but you're possessing a minion, and you're taking control of it and using its abilities. You've already seen 2 examples of ability swaps in the Goblin Zone. You've got the party, whereby all of your abilities are swapped out for things to do in the party that you've got to do to complete the quest, and you've got the quest that is in the bank, whereby you have to click the various things on the vehicle bar in order to complete the quest there. Well, I'll also tell you, a bit of a spoiler for the Walking Zone. Again, this podcast will have some spoilers in it. There's really no question about that, and if you don't like that, I'd suggest you turn out. I will try and at least let you know when the spoiler's going to happen. Spoiler for the Walking Quest. There is a vehicle quest in the second zone whereby you get on a catapult. You have to actually take over a catapult first. You've got to kill its driver. You jump on the catapult, drive it over to the shore, aim it, and then fire yourself onto undead battleships in order to kill the captains. So, again, there's another vehicle quest there, and I would expect to see an awful lot more of that kind of stuff a little bit later on in those questing zones. Now, you're right when you say that those kind of quests are great. They're great for a number of reasons. 1, they're challenging. 2, they provide much-needed variety in what could otherwise be fairly monotonous leveling up. As far as I'm concerned, actually, those are the 2 main concerns that I would have and say, look, this is a good thing. This is something that you want. This is something that spices up your questing. So you should want this, as far as I'm concerned. And yes, the challenging elements, that I remember doing that quest where you had to possess, what is it, the Abomination or something like that, and you had to fight the Death Knight. I think there were a couple of quests like that, these solo bosses. People have been wanting solo instances for a long time, and I don't really understand why that is, but I can see why they would want a challenging encounter that they've got to do on their own and not rely on other people. Just think about it for a second. A difficult encounter that can be done solo, that is balanced across the classes, is a perfect way to give people the difficulty and the challenge they're looking for. If you have something solo that is reliant on the class you're playing, it's invariably going to vary. Invariably going to vary. That's pretty bad, isn't it? But never mind, you can have that sentence. There you go, force-fed it to you. So, it's going to vary on the basis of what class you're playing. So, say, Paladins might have an easier job killing Big Boss number 5 than Shaman, or Mages, for instance. If everyone gets to play an Abomination and has to master not only the mechanics of the fight, but the mechanics of the thing they're controlling, then that's a good bit of fun. We've seen it before. We saw similar kind of stuff back in TBC with the questing areas out in, that spiky place. What was it? Blade's Edge. Yes, there indeed. They came in as dailies, and they were actually kind of tricky. So that was good. And I think people enjoyed that. I certainly liked it. So I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that in the levels. And I haven't really seen much thus far, but that's because I haven't quested. I've been doing that on purpose. I don't really want to quest that much because it spoils the surprise for me, and it means that I've got to re-level. But we'll see what we can do. I mean, right now I'm just all about showing off the beta and showing the instances in the various zones. But we'll see about doing some questing later on that's not, say, alts and the starting zones and all that kind of thing. But yeah, thank you for the email very much indeed. And of course you can email in themurloc@gmail.com. That also applies for your questions and answers. If you want to send in a question for the Q&A section of this show regarding Cataclysm Beta, you can do so. themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com. Right, okay. Let's see what we've got as regards to other questions. Got quite a few. Here's one. Oh, God, that is huge. I cannot answer that one. Sorry. If you're going to send me an essay, then you absolutely cannot, in any way, shape, or form, expect me to read that out on the show. That's quite silly. Okay. Opinion on Real ID, we're going to be talking about that later. Someone asks what the latest dungeon is going to be. Indeed, the next dungeon we're going to see in the Cataclysm videos. Well, I can answer that. It's going to be Deep Home because that's the one that's coming out next. Now, as I recall, in the alpha, people could get access to certain dungeons, but they weren't finished. I mean, you saw the video I did of Mount Hyjal, whereby there is an instance in the Sulfuron Spire. You can't get in it, as you saw. I almost died trying. Not all of the instances are available yet, and in fact, most of them aren't. So you're going to have to wait for that. But yeah, the next one will be Deep Home. It makes sense when you think about it. This beta is a real beta as opposed to a marketing exercise. Don't get me wrong, Blizzard sees the marketing potential of this beta. Hell, I've probably done enough for them by showing and hyping people up on this thing, which is funny considering the amount of criticism I've leveled at them over the past couple of months for being, well, honestly, terrible. You know, they've been putting in some really bad content. They've been lazy. They've made a bunch of dumb decisions. And, yeah, it's totally right to call them on that. Honestly, it is. If any of you feel angry about the stuff that's been happening over the past few months, I do not blame you at all. You know, I cancelled my sub a couple of months back. I couldn't be bothered with it. And what am I going to do? Go to ICC for the 60th time? Why bother? In that instance has been around for 6 months. You shouldn't be expecting people to keep playing the same content when the only content on that tier until a few weeks ago when they gave us a boss that was eaten in under 24 hours in all modes, including 25 heroic. You can't expect people to deal with that. You can't expect them to accept it. And that would be ridiculous. Would you play the same segment of a single-player game over and over again for 6 months? I don't think so. And you can't be expected to play a MMO in the same way either. It's not good at all as far as I'm concerned. But the beta has got a lot of good stuff and they're adding new stuff in. So when all of these upgrades come in and when they bring in the next build, we'll have a look at Deep Home, and I suppose I'm going to have to level my mage to that. I believe it's a level 83-ish instance, so if I get to about 81 I should be okay, I guess. So I better get started on Hydral, and then of course I could show you some of the phasing that's going on there because it's pretty damn major. Yes, indeed, folks. My name is TotalBiscuit, and you're listening to Blue Plz here on CynicalBrit.com. I'm going to play some music. I'm going to leave this one on the podcast because I've been given permission to do so. This one is by Captain Dan and the Scurvy Crew. Yes, indeed, authentic pirate hip-hop in the form of sea monsters. I'll be right back after this, folks, to talk a little bit about Real ID. Enjoy.
Stories of monsters in the waters, endless counts of horrific manslaughter. Sailors tell tales of beasts on the sea. What they don't tell you is that the worst one is me. You hear stories of monsters in the waters, endless counts of horrific manslaughter. Sailors tell tales of beasts on the sea. What they don't tell you is that the worst one is me. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. Smacking the kraken and on his flesh we be snacking. The pepper we packing's enough to burn up and blacken. The sea monsters be a meal I agree. Chum in the breeze just fills me with glee. We hunt off the keys, harpoons off the beam. We live off the scream and eat off the ski. A feast for me party, this is my fate for me Hardee's. On a water safari, giant squid calamari. Leviathan chowder and monster crab cakes. Our guns filled with powder blow up serpent snakes. Slurpy mates be the bait, there will be no debate. Fill them over with weights and then the bites we await. To fish giant sturgeons we use them fair virgins. They always be yearning for fresh meat submerged. Great whites never put up a great fight. They might if me crew hadn't taken a bite by the night. That's right. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. I bitch slap Leviathan in his chin, wipe off his smug little grin, send him for a spin back to where he's been. He tried to win, but his eye is thin like the kraken who I tore limb from limb from limb from limb. On a whim, snapped him like a Slim Jim, much to his chagrin. What a has-been, chase his blood with gin. Sea monsters just can't win. I've made giant squid on endangered species. Skyla, please, I killed her with these. Sea monsters freeze when they see me on the seas. When it comes to slaying them, I've got the expertise. I'm the greatest terror in all the ocean. Move over Tiamat, this is your demotion. I skinned the Yakumama and turned it to lotion. My rhymes keep the ocean in motion. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. You hear stories of monsters in the waters, endless counts of horrific manslaughter. Sailors tell tales of beasts on the sea. What they don't tell you is that the worst one is me. You hear stories of monsters in the waters, endless counts of horrific manslaughter. Sailors tell tales of beasts on the sea. What they don't tell you is that the worst one is me. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters.
need a premium quality Ventrilo server from UGTservers.com. It's goblin engineering, you see. Not like those inferior gnome products, always backfiring. If you're short on cash, you can even share the cost of the server with Guild Deposit. Have those lazy guildies of yours pay their dues. You know, I could offer you this amazing electric cattle prod that'll really get them moving.
UGTservers.com. Voice communication for your guild. Get yours today. Yes, indeed, folks, you're listening to Blue Plz live on CynicalBrit.com. Unless you are listening to the podcast, in which case you are not listening live, but you may be listening on CynicalBrit.com. All is good. I'm happy to accept all of you people. Yeah, so I'll say it's been really eventful. Blue Plz getting to number 1 on the video game charts on iTunes is, quite frankly, ridiculous and not something I ever expected to ever happen. Now, a lot of the thanks have to be given to you guys, as well as, of course, the great promotion given to us by MMO Champion. The show wouldn't be what it is without you guys listening, so, what's the point of me speaking if no one's out there to hear it? So, as far as I'm concerned, you guys are the heroes, so thank you very much for that, and we look forward to many, many more shows of frivolity and rage. Okay. So, Real ID, here's some rage for a lot of people by the looks of it. This only just came out. I'd love to say I've had a chance to research it. I haven't, because it came out just before the show. What I do have is I've got the MMO Champion post here, so we can deal with this as we see fit. Now, this show has always been about strong opinions, and that's exactly what this show will continue to provide. I don't really care as to whether or not people disagree with me per se. What I do like, however, is when you come up with an opinion that's really good and well-written and you email it to me, and I'll happily read it out on next week's show. I don't mind criticism. Really, I don't. If I couldn't deal with criticism, let me put it this way, I wouldn't post anything on the internet at all. And I certainly wouldn't have been around doing this on the internet for 5 to 6 goddamn years. Absolutely not. So, feel free, if you disagree with my opinion, you can email it in, and we'll see about reading it out on next week's show. Okay, so what are we talking about? Well, let me tell you. I'm going to be discussing Real ID. This has just been announced on on MMO Champion, of course, brought from the official Blizzard forums. This was posted by Nethera. So, I'll try and edit this on the fly so that you don't have to listen to the entire damn thing. So, they're going to make some changes that introduce the Real ID feature and allow you to connect in new ways, so they claim. That's their marketing speak about it. Now, the first and most significant change is that in the near future, anyone posting or replying to a post on official Blizzard forums will be doing so using their Real ID, that is, their real-life first and last name. With the option to also display the name of their primary in-game character alongside it, these changes will go into effect on all StarCraft 2 forums with the launch of the new community site prior to the 27th of July release, with the World of Warcraft site and forums following suit near the launch of Cataclysm. Certain classic forums like Battle.net will remain unchanged. That's the classic BNet as opposed to the new one. Interesting stuff. Interesting. So, obviously this has caused an awful lot of people to flip out. They be flipping out, man. Possibly almost as much as when I said that Tinkertown was indeed in Stormwind, which is of course incorrect. It's actually in Brill. Now, here's the thing about Real ID, and why this would cause controversy. The original form of Real ID was that you could enable Real ID and you could share your email address with somebody. And if you did that, they could add you via Real ID in-game, and you would be able to see their real name. You'd also be able to see what other games they were in terms of Blizzard games. So, for the moment, that will be WoW and StarCraft 2. I'd imagine it might be implemented into Warcraft 3 maybe, and of course it'll be part of Diablo 3, and whatever their unannounced MMO that we know they're making is, we'll see. A lot of people got upset about that, and it wasn't really for the reason you might think. It wasn't people saying, oh no, people can see my real name. It was more because there was a friend of a friend feature. The friend of the friend feature allowed you to see the real names of someone that you don't directly have on their friends list, and that caused an awful lot of drama and all that kind of thing. Also, people with well-known email addresses, like, say, me. I could be added to Real ID by somebody I don't know. Here's the thing, I actually don't care. I really don't. I don't mind if people can see my real name. At all. My real name is plastered all over my website. Heck, I will happily say, my real name is John Bain. B-A-I-N, if you want to spell it correctly. It's John with an H, don't get it wrong. Oh, for God's sake, it's just a name. So, what's going on with this whole forum thing? Now, the mandatory displaying of your first and last name, I don't know, I'm very split on this issue. Firstly, I see the point of people that say this is an unnecessary invasion of privacy because, hey, you're displaying somebody's real name without their prior consent. People make the choice to speak from behind a persona. And that's what I'm doing right now, for God's sake. Do you think I walk around in real life shouting at 80 decibels like, Brian Blessed? No. Absolutely not. That would be ridiculous. But, I'm speaking from behind a persona. And that persona can be manipulated to say certain things and can present a particular point of view in the way that I want it to. That's what pretty much any good presenter does in any form of media. They take on a personality and they play it. It's kind of like acting. Unless you're a news reporter, if you're a commentator, if you're a pundit, then more likely than not, you're going to be speaking using your opinion, but you're going to be blowing it out of proportion slightly. You're going to be making it larger than life and more presentable, hopefully more entertaining, and maybe a little bit more inflammatory, which is what I like to do on the show. But I do see what people's point is, honestly. On the forums, assuming I wasn't permabanned, I would be TotalBiscuit. That's me. And, I'm not John Bain on the forums. I'm TotalBiscuit. And TotalBiscuit says things that John Bain wouldn't. But then, isn't it getting to the point where we're moving beyond that? And back in the days of the internet, the olden days of the internet, everybody was known by their persona name. Without a doubt. You never used real names on the internet at all. But with the advent of social networking, in stuff like Twitter, and of course MySpace, and more prominently than anything perhaps Facebook, where getting somebody's real name is really very easy. And that's what you use. You use your real name on Facebook. You don't use some kind of crazy persona. Your real name is displayed. In a world like that, where we view the internet now as more of a household appliance, as a regular part of our everyday lives, as opposed to a kind of gimmick, the kind of thing we saw it about 15 years ago. It was a neat toy. It was a trick. It was used by researchers, of course. Very important for sharing of data and all that kind of thing. But from a consumer's perspective, it was a novelty at the time. I remember a long time ago there was a show by the name of Games Master, and that was on in the UK, and it aired for quite some time. It had Sir Patrick Moore on it, and it had a guy by the name of Dominic Diamond for the vast majority of the series. It was incredibly bad, but it was probably the best of a bad bunch. Nobody really does television about games well, not even G4. In fact, some people would argue especially not G4. Games Master was on, it must have been now about 10 years ago, and it had a particular segment whereby they lampooned the internet, because the internet at the time was a new thing, and they asked, is the internet full of crap? And they gave someone half an hour to find 10 good websites on the internet, and he struggled to do so. This was back in the day when search engines were terrible, when content was bad, when animated GIFs, frames, tables, and, for God's sake, freaking flamingtext.com was the pinnacle of design technology. Pretty bad, isn't it, when you think about it? But that was how it was. And back in those days, yeah, personas were all the rage. That is exactly what you did. Everyone had a persona. This was the days of MIRC and not Facebook. And I still use MIRC today, but look at the difference. On MIRC, you use a persona. On Facebook, you don't. On MySpace, you don't. On Friend Feed, Bebo, all that kind of other stuff, whatever it is. It's become more acceptable now to give out one's real name on the internet, and while I wouldn't recommend giving out your address, because that's really dumb, there are so many people now connected to the internet that if I say my name's John Bain, you can probably Google that and find 1,000 other John Bains very easily. Now here's the thing, here's where I start to agree with what Blizzard are doing here. I'll say that I happily understand where people are coming from. However, I would like to say that the forums, for the longest time, have been a walking joke. Let me read a little bit more of this post, and I will explain what exactly I mean. The forums have always been a great place to discuss the latest info on our games, offer ideas, suggestions, and share experiences with other players. However, the forums have also earned a reputation where flame wars, trolling, and other unpleasantness run wild. Yes, indeed! It took you 6 years to figure that out, Blizzard? Oh man, I tell you, I trolled. Without a shadow of a doubt, I trolled and I flamed on the forums. You know why I did it? Because I hated how bad the forum community was. I despised it. I wanted the forum to be a place where you could actually put forward an idea and have a real discussion. Maybe I was being far too optimistic. I mean, we're talking about gaming forums here. Name one gaming forum where that actually happens. Anybody? No? Didn't think so. Even the best ones always have this element there where people start to disagree and they take everything personally. They view something as a complete nonsensical piece of garbage. I don't blame them for that, because that's exactly what's been happening. For so very, very long, that's what's been happening on our forums. And how are you supposed to give feedback? And how are you supposed to be influential and actually affect the way the game is going if everything is just flames and garbage, and more importantly, more so than anything else, people getting really offended over everything? This is the worst thing. It's not the trolling and the flaming that really causes all of the problems. What causes the problems is people getting offended. They get upset. And when they get upset, they get emotional. And when they get emotional, they attack. That is their defense mechanism. They go for it. They will go for you. They will attack you. They will flame you. Personal manner, and the entire thread gets derailed. As soon as anyone gets upset, that's it. Game over for that thread. Guaranteed. I can tell you that for a fact. I know this because I've seen it happen so many times, and I railed against it so much on the EU forums. The problem with being overly protective to people is that those people will take full advantage of it. They will. That's the nature of the online community. If you give an inch, they will happily, without a shadow of a doubt, take a mile. When it comes to the forums, if you protect people from having their bad and terrible opinions demolished, then what you do is you encourage a culture whereby you can say any old crap, and there are no repercussions for it. And you know what? Those people actually believe in what they're saying. It's crazy. Every awful thread on the forum where someone has espoused some absolutely retarded viewpoint that makes no sense whatsoever. You know, Utgard keep is too hard, that kind of thing. You know, think about how many of those posts have actually gained traction because people aren't allowed to come down on them like a frickin' sack of hammers. Tell me, because I've seen very, very many of those, and it's bad. It is horrendous. And I would not be going out of bounds, as far as I'm concerned, to say that it has affected the game in a negative way. It's certainly affected the way that people interact within the game in a negative way. I mean, the most recent crap is the whole thing about gear score. The amount of rage and nonsense going around about gear score is potentially damaging to the game. You want to know why? Because if those people gain enough of a voice and enough traction, then Blizzard has to bow. They do. Because Blizzard is now a company which has to appease shareholders and people that look at charts. And you know what charts say? They say, oh, you just lost 10k subscribers over the past month. Why? And if they turn around and say it's because they were protesting over gear score, then the shareholders are going to turn around and say, get rid of gear score now. Appease these people. They're going to do it. And it doesn't matter how much of a backbone Blizzard has, and at times they do and at times they don't. But if these people gain traction and say dumb stuff like that, then what you do is you set a terrible example. Okay, we're going to give in on gear score. We're going to get rid of gear score because some people don't like it. We're going to limit the freedom of mod makers to not only make mods, but also limit the freedom of players in general to choose who they group with and have a mod that helps them quantify that. Whether you love or hate gear score or you're just completely indifferent about it, use elitist group, by the way. It's a way better mod. Whether you hate or love it, think about this. If Blizzard suddenly starts coming in and based on the crying and whining and complaining of other people, limits the mods that you can use, are you going to be happy about that? Because I'm thinking no. It's pretty rare for Blizzard to block a mod, thankfully. They just did it with AVR, and they made a good argument for it, and I pretty much accept that. But bear this in mind. The most important thing about getting rid of dumb opinions is to force people to back them up. You can say whatever you like if you're trolling with a level 1 forum alt, but if you have to put up your real name, you know what? I reckon that'll help. It really will, because I don't think that most trolls have the balls. I don't think they've got the testicular fortitude. I will happily do it, no problem at all. My name's all over the website. You know what it is. I don't care. When it comes to names, they're not as important as people think. If we're giving out addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, absolutely. Up in arms. But names? If this is what is required to bring down the hammer on how awful the forums currently are and create a place where people can actually talk and have a real discussion, go for it. If that's what's required, go for it. My name's TotalBiscuit. You're listening to Blue Plz here on CynicalBrit.com. I have a Nubcake news for you and then some music. I'll be right back after this to talk to you about why a guild is a great idea. Enjoy.
Live from the Blue Plz Tower in Howling Fjord, it's Nubcake News with award-winning anchor TotalBiscuit, bringing you all the news that matters, whether you realize it or not.
Welcome to this week's edition of Nubcake News. Coming up later in the program, a special report on Blizzard's plans to implement new payment methods on the Blizzard store, including your firstborn. We pointed out the folly of expecting WoW players to ever get the chance to procreate, but were told to get out. The headlines today. It appears that Blizzard HQ has been mysteriously devoured by hordes of ravening undead. While this may look, sound and smell like an all-out attack, those responsible claim that this qualifies as industrial action and that the Union voted unanimously in favour of the protest. Tens of thousands of ghouls carrying placards which read, "We are still dangerous and relevant, honest," have been ambling aimlessly, while Union Chairman Patchwork was seen shouting into a megaphone,
Patchwork wants my pay.
A prominent Azeroth business analyst agreed to talk to us on just why these creatures are going on strike. The Azeroth-wide economic downturn has hit Northrend the hardest. Its primary export, Deadly Plague, has seen a sharp decrease in popularity as of late due to various statements by the FDA that it may be unsafe. The Icecrown Corporation has already laid off half of its raid bosses, and more are on the way. They've also forced all minions across the board to take a 25% nerf in order to cut costs and stay solvent. There are also strong indications that the CEO, Mr. Arthas Menethil von Lich King, has taken a holiday to spend more time with his father, who is suffering from a terminal condition known as death. It is no surprise to me that the workers have taken it upon themselves to make a statement and take drastic action against their employers and the rest of the planet. Blizzard HQ has been burned to the ground, and hovering ominously overhead is the shadowy form of Naxxramas. Rumours of the destruction of the Dread Necropolis have evidently been exaggerated, as the undead have installed neon signs that read, "Wrath of the Lich King was merely a setback." We have just gotten word that the leader of the protest, a Mr. Kel'Thuzad, is happy to give an interview, but only if we fix the air conditioning. Mr. Kel'Thuzad, welcome to the program. May I call you Lil KT?
Do I look like a gangster rapper to you? Ask your questions before I turn your heart to a ball of ice.
Oh, excellent. Then I could be just like my ex-wife. So tell me, Kel'Thuzad, why exactly are you protesting today?
The incompetence of the self-proclaimed Lich King is without bounds. He failed completely to destroy any of the major factions, took repeated excursions from important meetings simply to laugh and gloat at aspiring adventurers, rather than, rend them limb from limb. And don't get me started on the Crusaders Colosseum, where he thought a 5-man boss from a level 72 instance could handle 25 heavily armored Mountain Dew-powered raiders. This imbecile's rule has been one mistake after another, and I'm here to take over now and show the world that the Scourge is not dead. Well, we are dead, technically speaking, but we are still relevant.
The leveling of Blizzard HQ was an impressive feat, but how exactly do you intend to take on the armies of Azeroth with a few thousand ghouls and an entry-level raid dungeon?
He misunderestimates us, Mr. Bigglesworth. Consider yourself blessed or cursed. Both will suffice, for I am about to unveil the latest and most deadly creation of the Scourge. Quiver in fear as I unleash upon you the most deadly plague ever created. Forum Real ID. Now that we have control of Blizzard HQ, we are instituting Forum Real ID, which means every foolish mortal who posts on the Blizzard forums will be forced to reveal their true name. Once the Scourge know their true name, we will own their souls, control their minds, and force them to do our bidding. What's more, we feel they'll be incredibly upset about the perceived invasion of privacy. Cower, mortals, cower before the might of the Scourge.
Oh dear God, the horror! This is it! The end of the world of Warcraft as we know it! Batten down the hatches, man the harpoons, sink the battleships! These are the end times! This is the revelation! The apocalypse! I've been John Bain! Oh God, the privacy! Good night. Courtesy of FrankLepacki.com. You ready for the Hell March? Yes, indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Blue Plz here on CynicalBrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. I've got what I'm calling The Legend of the Murloc coming up for you after this, but in the meantime, I'd like to talk to you about guild play and certain misconceptions that people seem to have about it. So Cataclysm is making a big push towards getting everyone back where they're supposed to be, i.e. in a guild. Throughout Vanilla and TBC, being in a guild was by far, without a shadow of a doubt, the easiest way to get a solid group. And it was one of the only ways to get a real raid. Mainly because raiding was pretty hard, and pugging anything but the most basic of raids took a while. I recall back in Vanilla when the easiest raid they had, which was Zul'Gurub, and the funny thing is, it wasn't even the easiest raid. It was supposed to be a introduction to raiding, so you could then go into Molten Core. Yet, it was more difficult in many places than Molten Core, and most of the gear was better than Molten Core. Why? Because Blizzard sucked way worse at itemization than they do now. Oh, I remember the days. Wow. So much terrible stuff. Would you like some shadow resistance on that tier 1 of yours, TotalBiscuit? Why, yes, I would, in fact. Let's go and have a look, actually. Let's have a look at Wowhead. Go and have a look at the Arcanist set for an example of some really, really badly statted crap. Oh, dear Lord in heaven. Arcanist Regalia. Let's have a look at it, shall we? This is so very bad. Arcanist Belt! Yes, 11 stamina, 20 intellect, 10 spirit, 10 fire resistance, ladies and gentlemen, and 14 spell power. And that was one of the better pieces. Oh, yeah. So very bad. They actually upgraded this because it was so bad. Try this one on for size. Arcanist Gloves. 14 stamina, 15 in 10 spirit, 7 fire resistance, 5 MP5, and 14 spell power. And who was that the tier 1 set for? Yes, that was for the Mage. Well done, Blizzard. Congratulations, you've created something I would not want to wear in a million years. The frickin' shoulders had MP5. Oh, God. So bad. And there are worse. Right, it's like Wild Heart. And yeah, the set bonus, really funny. 5-piece set bonus, 38 spell pen. What? Really? 38 spell penetration? Don't even get me started on tier 0. 200 armor. Enjoy! God. Oh man, that was bad stuff. So anyway, Zul'Gurub was brought in, and it actually took people ages to properly pug that. Let me think, when did that happen? It probably started happening around sort of midway through AQ40, I think is when I really saw people hitting Zul'Gurub with pugs. So that's a long time. That's a good number of months to really see people having great success in pugs. I mean, people tried it, don't get me wrong, but they wouldn't really get very far. It took a long time for people to start getting through that. Whereas you compare that to Wrath. Have a look at the first instance of Wrath. That was Naxxramas. Pugs were happening from within a week, and they were battering that instance into the ground. Terrible. Absolutely appalling. Is that what you really want? An instance so easy that a bunch of random guys with no knowledge of what they're about to get into can walk in there and face roll it? I think no. That's a bad thing. I think that's a terrible thing. I think that's bad for not only raiding, it's bad in general, because people aren't getting fun, challenging content. What fun is a game that might as well play itself? I mean, seriously. Think about a first-person shooter where all your bullets automatically home in on the enemy. Because that's what you're talking about. You're talking about games that are too easy. The opening instance for Wrath of the Lich King is guilty of that. Crusaders Colosseum is guilty of that. And many other things besides. All of the heroic 5-mans, except the new ones, which they then went and nerfed, I might add, are guilty of that. All of the normal dungeons, completely guilty of that. So, this has been the expansion whereby being in a guild has probably had the least number of benefits, even though it's still the optimum way to play. Even with the addition of the looking for group system, it's the optimal way to play. Why? Because you can get 5 guys from your guild, you can press the LFG button, you'll get instantly into a dungeon, and you will get bonus badges and content stuff from it, and you don't have to walk there. That's the big deal. So, again, it's optimal to use everything in terms of PvE in a guild group, and yet, because you don't have to, people actually take what they view as the easiest way, because it's hard being in a guild, apparently. As I am told, in fact, by certain people on YouTube, it's elitist to be in a guild. It's arrogant to be in a guild. It's nerdy to be in a guild. Yes, indeed, folks, you heard it here first. Socializing with other people on the internet and playing games with other people. That's nerdy. That's bad. You don't want a group of people you can talk to on a regular basis. What you want is some random guys that you can piss off with your sock and then never have to deal with again. Why? Because you're a coward. Simple as that. It's terrible. It's abysmal. Yeah, okay, we get it. Press one button, get badges. I get the idea. People want to do that. But really, being able to pug dungeons in that way, it's pretty disgraceful overall. So, Cataclysm is changing things. Yes, indeed. It's giving people more reasons now to be in a guild. And the main reason is, of course, well, it was going to be guild talents, but it's now guild perks. Now, you've heard my diatribe on that. You don't need to hear it again. The removal of guild talents was dumb, as far as I'm concerned. Removing additional layers of complexity is bad. It harms the game. And, more to the point, it has to be said that if you can't balance it in a way that there are multiple talent specs that make sense, then your balancing is bad. It's poor balancing. Simple as that. No doubt about that. I don't know what they're so concerned over, really. Oh, well, people might leave a guild if you've got the wrong talents. Well, for one thing, they shouldn't have joined the guild in the first place if it wasn't spec'd the way they wanted. And two, people leave guilds all the time for all manner of different reasons. What's one more? And indeed, this one being more legitimate than most. Instead of having some drama fight with some guy in the guild over a piece of loot or whatever. Appalling. But no, apparently now, as a result of Wrath of the Lich King, being in a guild is now viewed as not the normal thing to do, as it used to be for the past 4 years before Wrath came in. Now, the first 4 years of the game, being in a guild was the aspiration of every player. They wanted to be in a guild, they would form their own guild, if need be, and they would do the content with that guild. You can do it with a group of friends. I mean, now, your guild doesn't even have to be more than 10 people. You can guild with 10 guys, heck, you can even guild with 5 guys, if you so desire. Obviously, you're going to need 10 to form it, but if you want to have a guild group that just does 5-mans, you go right ahead. But the thing is, you don't have to. There's always been people that have fixed teams and they're not in the same guild. That's fine. I think it's all about having a little bit of quality control. So much on the internet is these days, isn't it? Huh? People complained that all the other Cataclysm videos were bad. You want to know why they were bad? Where's the quality control? People just don't care. They just want to get it done. It's like, hey, let's get some free views by putting out some crappy video or whatever. You know, I'm not going to say my videos are godlike. They're not, by any stretch. All I did was exercise a little bit of quality control and respect for the content and respect for the viewer. That's all it is. It's so sad that my videos, when I don't really do anything special, would be held up on a pedestal because the rest of them are bad. It's pretty disgraceful. You know, people all over the internet, not only in terms of YouTube, but in terms of this game and everything else, just need to step up, take some responsibility for what they're doing, and take some pride in it, for God's sake. You know, have a backbone and say, I am not going to be terrible. I'm going to be a good player. That's who I want to be. I want to be a great player. I want to excel. I want to be revered by other people as somebody who doesn't suck and somebody who is enjoyable to actually group with. How is that a bad thing? How is that a elitist thing to say? Can someone please tell me that? Because I can't figure that one out. That doesn't compute in my brain. To me, that's a normal state. I see a lot of very successful people, and you know how they got successful? By not accepting mediocrity, by not accepting being terrible, by not accepting that half-assed is fine just because so many other people do it that way. Hell no. Absolutely not acceptable. Not in any way, shape, or form. Now, with guild talents, at least you sort of had a choice as to which kind of guild you went into. I think the nice thing about guild talents, actually, more so than anything else, was the fact that you could see exactly what you were getting into. Oh, this guild has these talents. This guild is a raiding guild with this kind of philosophy. So, am I going to fit in here if I'm a PvPer? Hell no. Of course not. That's why you don't join them. It's arrogant to expect that a guild is going to conform to your beliefs as opposed to the other way around. If you go into a job, do you tell the rest of the company to change for your personal preferences? Not unless you're the damn CEO of that company. If you want to be a CEO of a guild, then you create your own. And you do whatever the hell you please. Creating a guild is really easy. And yet, of course, Wrath the Lich King said, being in a guild, nah, you don't need to be in one of those. What's the point? Pugging's quick, pugging's easy. Pugging is filled with dumb frustrations, even dumber people, and stupid ninja looting. You don't want to be in a guild. Guilds are for nerds. I don't know where the perceptions come from, really. I think the difficulty of the content has contributed significantly to this view. I think that certain actions within some hardcore guilds have not helped matters. Like, say, what Exodus did. You remember what Exodus did back in the day? They basically exploited Yogg-Saron to break it. And they cheated on the world first. They then bragged about it. And you know what? They tarred the entire raiding community with that crap. Because you know what people think? That's what hardcore guilds do. Some of them, absolutely. We had the Insidia controversy earlier, and as I say, whatever you think about that, whatever the case, you cannot deny that stuff like this going on tars the raiding community, and it makes people think, I don't want to be in a guild like that, because these people are socially inept. These people will cheat. They have no honor whatsoever. All they care about is winning. And that's not a fair perception, but you can see exactly, without a doubt, where that comes from. It comes from all of this nonsense. It comes from this drama. It comes from this bad PR, and then it's compounded by how easy the content is in general to do. Now, do you think that hard modes are enough to encourage people to join guilds? Because I'm thinking no. Hard modes were a great idea, and there are some examples of hard mode encounters that are excellent. Firefighter is a prime example. That on hard mode, really cool stuff. Back in the day, Sartharian 3 Drakes was pretty good. Obviously, it can be face-rolled now because you can out-gear it, and you can just zerg it down, but back in the day, 25-man, even 10-man, in fact, 10-man ended up being more difficult on 3 Drakes mode. That was a fairly entertaining and challenging encounter. Firefighter, though, wow. Firefighter was excellent. I'd even go as far as to say Flame Leviathan, even though it wasn't all that hard, it was an entirely different fight with full hard mode turned on. And honestly, hard mode now has become something of a, yeah, we're going to do it because we don't have anything else to do. We've beaten everything, so we're going to try hard modes. How many people, I have to wonder, are really encouraged to get to hard modes? And I'll tell you, ICC 10, when we started that off as our guild, we were fresh-faced, bushy tail and went through that. And hey, we weren't the best guild by any stretch. We ran aground on a number of issues. We had our own problems. We had tanks that ended up getting sick, so we couldn't raid, all that kind of thing. If you've been in the guild, you know the kind of things that can happen to stop you progressing as fast as you would like. But by the time we'd been in ICC for so long, and bearing in mind that ICC now has been out for how long? 7 months? Yeah, that's a long-ass time for no new content. People are bored. Do you really think that's like, oh yeah, we want to do Lord Marigar, now on slightly harder hitting mode? No, they want to see something new. They're sick of looking at the same old walls, the same old bosses, seeing the same old mechanics maybe jiggled up a little bit, just because, hey, this is now hard mode, ladies and gents. There are some encounters in ICC and hard mode that are great. They really are. Unfortunately, they are the minority. I don't think hard mode's enough, and I'll tell you what else. Hard mode these days has been so lazy in terms of the way loot is distributed. We're not going to make new loot items for hard mode, we're just going to make ones that are named exactly the same that have better stats. Not only is that hell of a confusing for anybody using raw, I'll tell you that for a fact. I was going through that, I was like, wow, I can get this. Actually, no, I can't. It's an item with the same name that just happens to come from the hard mode. Whippity frickin' do. No new items. Barely any. Very few perks for actually slogging through ICC and then going into the hard modes. That hasn't helped either. Hard modes are no longer something to aspire to. That, as far as I'm concerned, has got to be changed. It worked in Ulduar. You want to know why? Algalon. That's why it worked in Ulduar. I want to see this awesome boss, perhaps the coolest boss in this entire instance, arguably. That's what I want to see. And you know what? I'm going to get to see it, because, hey, we're going to go for hard modes. Yeah, let's do it. But what about the other stuff? Crusaders Colosseum? Hell no. ICC? Who cares? Barely anything unique there. As far as I'm concerned, all of those factors, they contribute to the lack of guild. You know what? If you don't want to join a guild in Cataclysm, I can respect that, but don't tell me that playing the right way is somehow elitist, because it's bollocks. Absolute garbage. My name's been TotalBiscuit. You're listening to Blue Plz here on CynicalBrit.com, and I'll play you some of this new sort of... It's kind of like an audiobook that I'm putting together. It's called The Legend of the Murloc, and I'm going to start off right now and play some music. We'll come back with a Cataclysm Q&A. You can email in themurloc@gmail.com for your questions. Enjoy. Murlocs are one of the most numerous races in all of Azeroth. They come in a wide variety of shapes, sizes, and colours, but they have three things in common. They are savage, bloodthirsty, and unbelievably stupid. Some people believe all life was created by the light, designed for a specific purpose, but if that were the case, then Murlocs were some horrendous practical joke, inflicted upon the world by a cruel and vengeful, ineffable deity. It is more likely that these aquatic predators simply evolved the ability to walk on land, yet haven't quite mastered the art of thinking. But, as with all such tales, there are exceptions. This is the story of one such exception, a Murloc by the name of Murloc, with a capital M. It asks that lingering question: what if one of the most dangerous and annoying creatures on the entire planet could speak, insult you in 5 separate languages, and then steal all of your worldly goods before you had the chance to notice? So begins the legend of the Murloc. It was a typically murky day in Dustwallow Marsh. The sun barely penetrated the thick haze. It was unpleasantly warm, humid, and stank like a druid's litter tray. Dustwallow Marsh is a dangerous place, filled with all manner of predators just waiting to ambush careless passers-by. The various bogs are filled with the bones of dead travellers who wandered off the beaten path, only to be devoured by ravenous creatures. Every day in Dustwallow is a battle for survival, not only for those who come here to seek riches and valuable combat experience, but for those denizens of the swamp, fighting to protect their territory or simply get a decent meal. Among those that live in this swamp are various tribes of Murlocs. It would be a little too kind to suggest that the Murloc tribes had any real structure. Like magpies, they build their faith around the nearest shiny, large, and/or glowing object, revering amongst other things rocks, small murky pools of swamp water, and more recently, an empty can of goblin Coca-Cola. In the rare occasions where they do not attack other races on sight, they have been known to engage in simplistic trade, in which they give away countless valuable resources in return for poorly made trinkets and worthless baubles. They live in poorly constructed huts, which have a tendency to fall down in a light breeze, at which point the tribe prays extra hard and makes sacrifices to the god of the can to make sure it never happens again. That is your average Murloc, so when I say, dear listeners, that the Spurgle tribe of Dustwallow was the weakest and stupidest of them all, I need you to understand the gravity of that statement. Primitive by even Murloc standards, the Spurgle are a horrible mistake that Darwinism hasn't quite got around to wiping out yet. That said, it shouldn't take too much longer. The Spurgle know very little of how to defend their territory and are easily tricked by even the most simple adversaries. The Spurgle recently gave away their entire supply of weapons, as well as the winter food stores, to an enterprising kobold conman named Scammer, simply because he waved a shard of broken mirror in front of them and proclaimed himself a wielder of the light. The tribe needs a hero, a leader with the intelligence, cunning, and strength to lead them out of the darkness and into a new age of supremacy and enlightenment. If this was a fairy tale, that leader would be emerging right about now. Codswallop! Unfortunately for the Spurgle, this is no fairy tale, and their greatest threat has just emerged from within.
What are these strange sounds coming out of my mouth? Somebody, anybody, explain this sorcery at once. McGurgle, Gablar, Squaw, what the devil is going on here? Why can't any of you understand me? Yes, I am aware that I appear to be speaking in tongues, you dolts, but that doesn't explain my predicament. What? Get off me, you soft-scaled simpletons! You will not take me to the Elder! We don't even have an Elder, remember? He wandered off and got eaten by a crocodile months ago. Where are you taking me? Unhand me, you fiends!
The strange-speaking Murloc was dragged unceremoniously by his fellow tribesmen to the centre of the village. To call it a village would be somewhat generous. Spurgle did not possess any skill in craftsmanship, and the majority of the remaining creatures lived inside rotten logs and hollowed-out tree stumps. Digging his heels into the ground, the Murloc attempted to stop this thoroughly uncivilized manhandling, but simply fell flat on his face instead. Rubbing the dirt from his eyes, he stared upward towards a curious object, perching atop a rock in the middle of the village. "The Lord of the Sea will decide your fate!" the tribesmen clamoured in unison. The Murloc stared blankly at the object laying before him for a moment.
This is a clam. It can't decide anything. Why must you nincompoops insist on worshipping anything that you've never seen before?
"Bow to the Lord of the Sea! Accept your judgment!" the tribesmen bade, waving sticks and slobbering ominously. Murlocs are not above cannibalism, and the Spurgle tribe hadn't eaten in days. The Murloc's mind raced. It was an unfamiliar sensation. The average Murloc mind never races, it ambles, and that's on a good day. On a bad day, it sits around on the sofa watching the X Factor. Still unsure as to what had happened and why he had been cursed with this strange new language and intelligence, the Murloc knew one thing. If he didn't act soon, he would be devoured by his starving peers. He did the only thing he could think of. Grasping the clam, he held it high above his head as a magurgle of outrage rose from the crowd. As the tribesman lunged towards the Murloc, he took a deep breath, placed the clam into his mouth, and swallowed as hard as he could. A collective hush fell over the tribe as they sank to their knees in the stinking mud, chanting, "God-eater! God-eater!" in their guttural language. The Murloc was too busy choking to notice. The last thought on his mind before passing out gasping for breath was,
Satan's bollocks! This is going to hurt on the way out!
Who knows how much time passed? The Murlocs don't have clocks, and it's not like you can really see the sun in the murky depths of the swamp anyway. But at some point in the future, the Murloc awoke on a bed of reeds. Several tribesmen fussed around him, their eyes sparkling with awe and wonder, an all too familiar sight. The Murloc sat up, and with a cruel grin thought, "This is going to be fun." You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on cynicalbrit.com. Yes, indeed, folks, you listen to Blue Plz here on cynicalbrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. I'd like to give a quick plug to our friends over at VTWProductions.com. Now, Gnomewise was kicking around the channel earlier. He is the host of a show called Casually Hardcore. Used to be part of the WoW Radio crew, one of the 3 best shows on WoW Radio, I might add. That is Casually Hardcore, Othello Hordak vs. the World, and, of course, the one and only Blue Plz. He has Craig and Liz Dean from Real Life Comics on Alpha Geek interviews tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is on VTWProductions.com. So you're into the comics, you like the geeky stuff, then head over there. It's very good indeed. Right, Q&A time, ladies and gentlemen. I will take questions for the next 20 or so minutes. I'll take them via email, I will take them using the chat room, and I will also take them via Twitter, I suppose, if you want to send them over there, although they've got to be pretty damn short. I'm just going to log into the beta, just in case there's something that I need to answer that way. So, let me see, what can I answer? Well, anything that's currently really available in the beta. I'm not in a guild, so I can't really talk about guild talents all that much, I'm afraid. We don't have a beta guild going on, so can't really do much about that. But anything else, throw it my way. I'll see what I can do about answering what you've got. I'll give you a couple of minutes while I log in. I'm going to have to do that. There we go. Let's get this sorted out. There's the password. Fantastic. Okay, let's get on in, and I'll start taking Q&A questions in just a short moment. What I will answer, considering that most people are going to say, hey, what's the next video, when's it coming out? Next video is supposed to be the Worgen starting zone, and that's going to be from 5 to 7. That consists of about 30 minutes of content per se. It's going to take a long time to get through. I don't want to make crazy long videos, like hour and a half, because that's just dumb. So, yeah. I will do my best to provide them in chunks, and hey, we've got plenty of time. What I will also say, by the way, since it's my birthday weekend, I will not be doing videos over the weekend, because, hey, I'll be drunk, most likely, and playing games and stuff, so... As for Friday's show, that will be a vendor strike. Those of you who don't know what that is, that's myself and about 10 friends in the studio, and it will be madness. Same time, it's on Friday. We'll be talking about beta and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, let's log on in, and we'll start taking some questions right here, shall we? Okay. You haven't said anything about flying mounts and how you acquire the ability to fly in Cataclysm. Have you seen any trainers or mount sellers, or do we have to go and buy special Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdom mounts and another flight mastery? No, you do not, ladies and gentlemen. As of the current state of the beta, there is no need to buy any kind of flying skill in order to fly in Cataclysm. If you can already fly, then you can fly in Azeroth. You don't have to buy anything new. No cold weather flying, warm weather flying, mild weather flying, British weather flying, none of that crap. You don't have to worry about it. Is there a ground path to Caverns of Time still? Yes, it is. There is a ground path to Caverns of Time. Funnily enough, I'm actually in Tanarus right now, so let's see. I can find it for you. A lot of Tanarus is now underwater. There's been a fairly major issue in terms of the way that the water's come in. For instance, Gadget San is actually now on the coast, and there's a shipbuilding operation going on right here that I can see. So if I have a look over, I'll go over to Caverns of Time. Caverns of Time seems to be fairly untouched. It's on a sort of little peninsula sort of thing, an outcropping, and they haven't taken that away at all. Actually, I wonder if Anachronus is still there. I'm going to go fly over there and find out while I ask some more, and indeed answer some more questions. So yeah, you can still get to the Caverns of Time by going through Tanarus. Is Mankirk still in Cataclysm Beta, and is he looking for his wife? No, he's not looking for his wife, but he is looking for vengeance for his wife. So the Mankirk's wife quest, it's still there. Mankirk's wife, I believe, has now been buried. So, yeah, that's all been dealt with. But as far as Mankirk, yeah, he is on the road for vengeance. There's a quest whereby apparently he went through something. What did he do? He went to the Barrens and the Crossroads, I believe. And he could pick a quest there to help him avenge. Right, okay, Anachronus is not here anymore, ladies and gents. He has buggered off. There's a couple of those drakes. The drakes are now flying around. We've got Tick, and we've also got Chronalis. They're there. But yeah, Caverns of Time looks to be fairly similar. There's going to be another Caverns of Time instance, I am told, but that is not available as of yet. Right, let's see what else we've got here. Q&A question. Current intellect to spell power conversion for casters. If there's no tooltip, you can find a new piece of character gear, check if it's only got int, and do a swap. Okay, yeah, I can do that. Hang on. Let's see. What have I got? Talents, spellbooks. Where's me character? There we go. Okay. Right, I've got a piece of character gear that's got... has that got pretty heavy intellect on it? Let's have a look. I've got a ring which has got fairly silly intellect on it. Okay. Right. I don't think I've got... Yes, actually, I do. This one. The Anthea's ring doesn't have any... Obviously, doesn't have any spell power or anything like that on, so I'll give you this conversion right here. This ring has 90 intellect. My current spell power is sitting at... Let's see... Ranged spell power. Where is it? It's disappeared. Where are you? Where are you? Hell, there we go, right. 2,700 is what I'm sitting on right now. If I remove the ring, which has 90 intellect, then I will sit on 2,601. So, by the looks of it, it's pretty much, from what I can tell, a 1-to-1 conversion. And, of course, mana-wise, I'm sitting on 30k right now. And I've got some pretty sick regen. So, yeah, there you go. That appears to be the current conversion rate. Bear in mind I'm an Arcane Mage, so things might be a little bit varied, and obviously there's talents to deal with that, but that appears to be the conversion rate at present for into spell power. Okay, let's see what else we've got. As a fellow mage, which talents are you enjoying most and which need to be changed? And could you do a video at 81 doing Flame Orb? I will try. What I'll tell you about the talents is mage talents haven't changed all that much. You know that 3% buff that you gave damage-wise for Arcane? That is now a talent, but it doesn't work. It's broken, and you can't learn it, so that's a bit of a kick in the teeth. New talents-wise, what is that? Well, Arcane Repulsion is pretty neat. This is very cool for PvP. Your Frost Armor, Mage Armor, and Molten Armor spells cause a successful melee attack to knock the attacker back 4 yards and be slowed by 50% for 2 seconds, and this cannot occur more than once a minute. That's really cool for PvP. Big fan of that one. What else have we got? They've changed Mage Shielding around a little bit. What else? Focus Fire, that's the same. Improved Arcane Missiles is now a Tier 1 talent. It's 9% extra damage on Arcane Missiles across the board. Bear in mind that Arcane Missiles are now used in a proc form only. You have to proc them in order to cast them, which is honestly the only time you're using them anyway. Improved Mana Gem is now a talent as well. Mana gain from your Mana Gem also increases your spell power by 3% of your maximum mana for 10 seconds. Bearing in mind I'm currently sitting in Tier 10 on 30k, that's pretty damn significant. That used to be a set bonus, that's now actually a talent. So that's pretty good. What else have we got in the Arcane tree? Not a huge amount, honestly. Be fairly similar. Okay. Frost-wise, I don't really care. Didn't really look at it. Fire-wise, see what there is new. There's not a huge amount of new talents. I'd expect more. And what I actually like, more so than the talents, are the Masteries for Fire. Masteries for Fire are cool because the last one, it gives you a second Ignite on top of your other Ignite. It's called Flashburn, and that's great fun. But yeah, as I said, there are some changes. I think that I would like to see some of it varied up a little bit more. Also, Pyromaniac's been changed. This is pretty cool. Increases spell haste by 5%. It actually goes up to 15%, fully talented, if 3 or more targets are taking fire damage over time from your spells. So, dot them up and do damage that way. Obviously, Ignites and Flashburn will help that. And AoE, naturally. If you're using AoE in any form, welcome to extra spell haste, and a pretty major amount of it as well. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Okay, what else have we got? Dear TB, the anti-puppy killing troll. I was wondering if there are any changes to the Forsaken starting area, as well as the Forsaken Hunter. What pet do they start out with? Great question. Let me create a Forsaken Hunter, I'll tell you what. As regards to the starting areas, I've seen some changes. I honestly haven't been there yet. It's on the list of things that need to be done at some point, but I will log out and I'll tell you exactly what they use. I'm willing to put money on some kind of Hellhound or something like that, but we'll see. Where does the ship at Gadgetsan take you? I have no idea, but I will ride in just a moment. Apparently, you get a bat. Yes, you get a bat. By the looks of it, I will double check that, make sure that's the correct one. Forsaken Hunter, yes indeed, you get a flying bat straight away, and you start with a crossbow, which is fairly reasonable as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to log back onto my character so I can tell you exactly where that boat takes you. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. In the meantime, I'll answer some other questions coming in. I'll deal with chat questions momentarily. These are all email ones for the time being. Is it still possible to summon and tame a Ghost Saber in Darkshore? Don't know. I'd imagine they're probably all dead, but I could be wrong. So, there you go. I mean, like I said, Darkshore is such a wreck. I barely even saw anything living there, let alone any nice animals. What else have we got? Desolus Tour video, can we expect it? Yes, you'll get one. I don't know about the story to the Desolus change, only that the Cataclysm changed a whole bunch of stuff. You'll get to see part of the Cataclysm in my upcoming Worgen video. It is actually part of the second starting zone. The Cataclysm happens right then. It is set in such a time that the Cataclysm occurs in the middle of it, and suddenly there's a massive amount of phasing, and you're like, holy crap, what just happened? So, yeah. Oh god, the boat's getting away. Quick, let's chase it down. I'm on a flying mount. I mean, is it going to be enough to catch it? It's making a very slow turn. I might get on it. Get back here, you bastard boat. Oh no, it's at full speed now. I don't think I'm going to get there. Damn it. These boats are quick. I'll tell you, they're actually faster than 280% speed flying mounts. Dear. I should probably go speak to the guy at the dock. Maybe he can tell me where it's going. But Gadgetan, that's weird. I don't know. I mean, it could go anywhere, really. Whole bunch of potential places. I mean, it could go to the harbour outside of Ogrimmar, really. The dock is empty, so I'm afraid I can't tell you that one. I'll hang around and see if I can catch it the next time. Whatever. Right, let's see what else we've got. Okay. Look at the list right here. Dear host of shows! Host of shows, you say?
You dare look upon the host of souls! I shall devour you all!
I've been looking forward to the opportunity to press that button. Oh, cool, the boat's coming back. Excellent. I can go speak to the guy on the boat that should tell me where this is going. Are there any other Valkyrie in Undercity besides Agatha? Are there new types of undead? Well, not really. I mean, the stuff that they've got right there is actually horde guarded because of the distrust right now between the Forsaken and everybody else. And I didn't see any other kinds of undead when I went there, but bear in mind that was a while ago. I'm now aboard the Maiden's Fancy. I'm going to speak to the Goblin Captain right here. There's a troll steering it, guys. That's probably not a good idea. Okay. The Maiden's Fancy. Where does it go? It's not telling me a damn thing. I think... well, I've just become neutral with Booty Bay, so it might go there. And all these guys are telling me where exactly it's going, but I'm sticking around on the boat, so I'm sure I'll find out momentarily. Right, let's see what else we have coming in here. Getting the Q&A question. Have you seen any monsters in old zones yet? Any new ones? Well, the Boglords, like I said, the Boglords in Tainted Scar were unusual. They're not new, of course, but they're from the Burning Crusade. I haven't seen anything specifically new yet in the older zones, but then again, bear in mind, there's a lot of them. Would you explain the Worgen story? How did they become this way? Short answer is, you get bitten. If you notice in my video, I acquire a debuff when I go down to the basement and get attacked by that stealth guy. That debuff gets progressively worse, and you get bitten, and you become a Worgen, I assume, in the Cathedral. You remember back when you saw the Cataclysm teaser trailer, when you saw someone transforming into a Worgen and they seemed to be inside some kind of church? I think that's the cinematic. That's what you're going to expect to see in full, and that's when you transform. As to what you do, I couldn't tell you, but that's the basic story. You get invaded by Worgen, a bunch of your guys become Worgen, and there you go. What's happened to the thong-wearing Timbermore Furbolgs? Hopefully they've drowned, but I can't be sure of that. Can you fly to Azure Mist Isle, or do you need to wait for the boat? I think you can fly, but I haven't been there. With Tinkertown now being located in Desolus, who runs Tinkertown? That would be the Trolls. Yes, indeed. Trolls run Tinkertown, and if they don't, well, they're doing it wrong. But this boat just took me... Where did it take me? This boat took me back to where I went in the first place. Either I've been talking for too long, or I missed it. That would be pretty dumb of me. Maybe I did. I don't know. Checking the combat log. Nothing's happened to me. No, I haven't zone changed, so it might... I'm going to have to check this again, aren't I? This boat is actually moving really quickly. It gives about 5 seconds before you can get on. So, yeah. Any new boats and Zeppelins? I believe there are... Well, there's definitely some more boats. No doubt about that. There's a boat on the shore of Ogrimmar. I don't know if it actually moves, but it is there. Zeppelins-wise, there's some connections around... I think there's some connections around the Barrens, actually. I've seen them flying over the Barrens. That might just be the ones going to Thunderbluff, though. I'd expect an awful lot more. New mage portals, there aren't any yet, but I would expect there to be at least one at some point. Like I say, we're capped to level 82 right now. I think if there are going to be any new ones, we would just go on with that. I mean, capital cities-wise, we're all pretty much in the same places. Let's see what else we have right here. I mean, if there were new portals, you'd... Yeah, this boat doesn't work. It's broken. I just checked it. It just turns around and goes straight back to Gadgetzan. So, yeah. Right now, no idea. Are there any new loading screens? There are for the dungeons, but not for the main game at the moment. So that's a simple answer to that one. Dungeons have new ones. I would expect more. What's your opinion on the druid form? Particularly the troll. I like the troll cat. I'm not so big on the troll bear. I think the troll cat's pretty cool. They should give it moose horns, and then it would be fantastic. Does Cataclysm convince you to roll an alt? Yeah, maybe. Probably one attempt, maybe. I'll do it just to see what's changed, because it seems like there's an awful lot of crazy stuff going on. Wow, the water's so blue in here. It's pretty awesome. Tanaris has some fantastic beaches. Take your family there for a holiday. What else have we got? How does flying work in Cataclysm? You mount your flying mount and then you go. Simple as that. The only thing I've ever seen dismount me thus far is the chasms in the middle of the Barrens. You actually get knocked off your mount there. I don't know if that's an anti-ganking mechanism to stop you going in there and ganking new players, but whatever the case, if you try and fly over the chasm on a flying mount, you die. So, well, you fall in the lava and then you die very slowly at any rate. Dear host of shows, what's this? Long ago in Epic, you mentioned many times that you held the opinion that WoW and as an extension, WoW raiding required almost no skill to play, and instead it was a huge time sink. Fast forward a few years in the current content, do you still hold the opinion that, or do you think that WoW has moved towards more skill than time sink? Well, I don't think I ever said that, honestly, but I'd say there are a lot of elements of WoW that don't really require a lot of skill, and more importantly, the skill ceiling for WoW in terms of an individual player is very low. The highest skill ceiling you can reach is as an arena player. That requires the highest amount of individual skill, but in terms of, like, raiding, it's skill as a group, it's coordination as a group. It's not like mad, oh my god, reflexes or anything like that. Reflexes help a little bit, but it comes down to how well your guild is coordinated and is able to execute a particular tactic or strategy. Is it moving towards more skill-based? Well, it certainly didn't in Wrath in terms of the 5-mans and the dungeons outside of hard modes. I don't think raiding's ever going to be majorly skill-based because it is so scripted. It's really about learning exactly what to do in a particular situation and then executing it. You know, it's pressing the right button at the right time, which can be argued as a skill, but I wouldn't say that it has a massive skill ceiling, and it's more down to how good a group you're with and if everyone is able to coordinate. And that, again, is group skill, but not so much individual skill per se. Here's my question. How did you first find out about Warcraft? I don't need World of Warcraft. I can tell you when I first found out about Warcraft. I think, let's see, I must have been probably about 12, 13 years old. And I used to go to a games club, and that games club, we played Warhammer mostly. Warhammer, Blood Bowl, Necromunda, Gorka Morka, that kind of thing. And there was one guy there, he was a bit of a geezer, and he always used to sell everything. And he tried to sell me a copy of Battlecruiser 3000 AD. Even at that tender young age, I could smell crap a mile away. And I said, what else have you got? And he's like, I have this game called Warcraft 2. And I bought it for £10. Bear in mind, it was fairly new at the time, give or take. And I played the hell out of the game. I'd only just got into RTS. I'd first discovered Dune 2, I think, when I was 11 years old, and I loved the hell out of it. And Warcraft 2 was a totally new ball game. I mean, graphics blew Dune 2 out of the water, the controls blew it out of the water, the originality of the units, the music, the voice acting, the videos, and oh, it was so good! Warcraft 2 is still one of my favourite RTS of all time, without a doubt, and that's where I got into WoW, initially. That's why I cared about Warcraft in any way, because of Warcraft 2. And I was never really big into Diablo, barely ever played StarCraft initially, but I played Warcraft 2, I played the hell out of Warcraft 3 in the single player, and when I saw the trailers for World of Warcraft, I thought, hey, that could be cool, that could be awesome, let's see how it goes. And I actually got in as a result of playing PlanetSide. I was with a group in PlanetSide called the Halibuts, and we all went to play WoW after the beta stopped and the game launched, and we had a lot of fun. Hey, I've been there ever since. Okay, a few more questions. I'll do this from the channel, then I'll do the shout-outs, and then we can end it. Okay, new messages right here. Do you have any information about playing with heirlooms in Cataclysm? There are heirlooms, and they will scale properly. They're not going to scale on a, oh, you are now 10 levels higher basis. They're going to make the scaling more accurate to the levels, so no problem at all. You can get an heirlooms, and there's going to be new heirlooms as well, so I've been told. Any new videos today? Hopefully Worgen, but that's not going to be till tomorrow, honestly. The upload time's going to be horrendous. Are there any Twilight bashing jokes in the Worgen zone? There is one. The female Worgen, I believe, say, at least I don't sparkle. So, there you go. A little bit of Twilight bashing there, it's always good. Let's see. I thought it went against Blizzard's TOA, terms of use to not give out personal information. I have no idea, I haven't read it in ages. You're probably right. But I imagine they will retroactively change this. How much does 310% flying cost? I don't know, because I haven't seen the trainer for it yet. I don't know if there is one in the beta right now. There might be, so I can't tell you. Has the flight cost been lowered? I don't think so yet. But we'll see. What else we got? What do you want for your birthday? I actually need money to get myself to Bloodstock, so I'm just asking, you know, the people that give me stuff to get me cash to help me go to Bloodstock. But I would never ask you guys for presents. That's ridiculous. But yeah. That, I'll probably get Bloodstock and, yeah, maybe buy a video game and some good vodka, I think. Okay, I think that is about it. Oh, one more. Comparing to Northrend, what do you think about leveling in Cataclysm? How much better is it? Is it more fluid? A little bit. As far as I can tell, the use of phasing is the big attraction. It's going to take a lot longer. 80 to 85 is going to take ages. It's going to take longer than 70 to 80, so I'm told. but you've got a lot of choice as to where you want to go. I mean, Hyjal will get you from 80 to 82, as will Vashia, and there are a load of other places you can go, so it's good to have a lot of choice, and that's very cool indeed. We're about done, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. I will do another Q&A next week, so don't worry if you didn't get your question answered. You can also, if you like, send me an email via themurloc@gmail.com or send me a PM over YouTube. That'll do. I'll try and answer what I can. We're about done. Thank you very much, as always, for what looked to have been a record-breaking show. I hope every one of you had a fantastic time. I will be back on Friday with a vendor strike. Myself and 10 of my friends are going to be living it up here on the stream for your entertainment. It's going to be pretty amusing, I feel. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for making Blue Plz #1 on iTunes. I look forward to doing many more shows for you in future. Shout out time, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to shout out, you send me a message in the chat channel. Click the chat button at the bottom of the screen on cynicalbrit.com. You can send me over Twitter if you like, or you can send me an email, whichever you prefer. That's all cool. You got a few minutes to do it. themurloc@gmail.com. I'll give you as many shout outs as I can, and then I will throw at you some final music, something really good. Delicious. It's been a good show. I've had a lot of fun with this. I hope everyone else has too. A shout out to Captain Placeholder's Return. That's from Zan. A shout out to OMG It's Jay. I'd like to thank him, actually. He came out with an amazing piece of imagery right here. I don't know if he has posted it, but it's pretty damn pro. I'll put it in the chat room, and I'll most likely be using it somewhere. OMG It's Jay is artistically brilliant. He comes up with some great Photoshop stuff. Go check that out on the channel right there. A shout out to Hinky for being the best Ret Paladin ever. I think some people may dispute that. We shall see. What else have we got? It's going to take a couple of minutes for my email box to update. Shout out to Angelo for failing at tanking. I'll give a shout out to me as well for failing at maging. That's from me, by the way. God, that was terrible. A shout out to Tinks, Michael, Malink, Nuclear Dud, and all my royal servants in the In the Mountains Guild. Yes, indeed. I don't think I've still got that. So, yeah, I suppose you can have a retarded horse noise instead. There you go. Do the Worgen Death Knights start in Acarus? That's a question I have no idea. What else have we got in terms of shout-outs? The spam, good God. Shout out to me for listening live for the first time in 6 months. Oh, there we go. I don't know who that is, because it's all just been spammed off the screen. There we go, Tech Priest, there we go, fantastic. A shout out to Arinatrox, what the hell is that? For coming back after 14 months. A shout out to the most manly arena team, Unicorn Death Squad, an Ember Storm Battle Group server. Shout out to Naga, from Vaki. A shout out to Algernon. I hear he relocated to Tinkertown. Yes, he did. He relocated to Tinkertown, which is now in Dalaran. Yes, indeed. A shout out to Aces High. That's from Kirov. A shout, get your bloody Bloodstock ticket ordered and bring meat. It's from John Q. Yes, indeed. It's going to be fun. A shout out to Bobby Kotick's mother. She must be a classy lady, but her son is somewhere in the moo. I don't know what that means. A shout out to Tinkertown, which has now just mysteriously relocated onto the back of a giant turtle and is floating through space mounted atop 4 elephants. That I can guarantee. A shout out to Eternus Trinitas on the Venture Co. US. That's from Eric Dush. Yes, indeed. Right, I'm going to give a shout out to those in the chat room. It's only fair. A shout out to John Q, who will be the faithful partner at the Bloodstock Cynical Brit Camp. It's a great metal festival over in the UK. Looking forward to being that in the middle of August. You should come along. It's going to be great fun. Loads of us meeting up there. Home Despair, looking significantly less attractive than the other form of Hope of Despair. Please change to true form, Hope and Despair, like some kind of Worgen. A shout out to Callan, who, well, I'm going to say he's been the bouncer of the channel today. I wouldn't want it with him, honestly. Look at that guy. He's scary. He's like he could snap you like a twig. Invalids. That is one giant hat, really. Court, you look so depressed all the time. Seriously, chin up, bucko. Good lord. What else have we got? DJ Time Killer, thank you for finally putting on a shirt. Heath, why are you in a cave? I could just see it, the crackling logs underneath it. It's like, by the firelight, I listen to Blue Plz. Korami, your face is gonna get stuck that way if you keep doing that. That would be unpleasant. Gazimov looks far too old to really be here, I'm afraid. Beedro's not even listening to the show, the cheeky bastard. He's probably playing some anime game on his DS. How dare he? And of course, shout out to Ranaro, who's doing a pretty fantastic job of making the rest of the channel incredibly jealous indeed, and detracting attention from my show. Bad person. Right, I am done, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. You guys have been a fantastic audience. I will be back on Friday with Vendor Strike, and you can check out my archives over on iTunes and on cynicalbrit.com to listen to previous shows. Also, check out all of my old stuff is on wcradio.com. If you click the archives, go to Blue Plz. It's like 100 episodes there if you want to. Thank you very much. I'll see you on YouTube. You guys have been awesome. Good night.
You have been listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz, WoW's #1 shock jock show, only on cynicalbrit.com. We'd love to hear from you, so feel free to leave a comment on the